Hi everybody, my name is Nicholas James Amston. Welcome to Scouting About. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about my favorite quarterback prospect coming into this year's draft, Dwayne Haskins. So, let's start out with Dwayne Haskins' measurables. He's 21 years old, 6'3", 220 pounds. Okay? And let's get into his stats. In the year 2017, Dwayne Haskins sat behind quarterback J.T. Barrett. And in this time, he did get to play some games, 8 games to be exact, assuming garbage time hours. I watched some film, and I really could tell that he was special even back then, and I feel like Ohio State fans could too. He went 40 of 57, with a 70% pass completion rate. He threw for 565 yards, 9.9 yards average per throw. 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. He ran for 86 yards on 24 carries. Gave him a 3.6 yard average. And like I said, I mean, you could probably tell just from the completion percentage how good exactly Dwayne was. He was impressive, even in the short amount of time he got. You could just see the football IQ that was there, and we'll get more in depth about that later. And then we'll talk about his year that he started, all 14 games. He threw 373 for 533 with a 70% passing completion rate, which is impressive because the year before, when he had played way less games, he had a 70.2. He went down 0.2%. He played 14 games. He threw for 4,831 yards, 9.1 yards an average, 50 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He ran for 79 times, 108 yards, and he got sacked 14 times. So obviously that goes into a rushing type deal in there with the college's little dumb rules. We'll talk about some of the awards he did get. He got Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. He won the Sammy Bogg Award. He had number 1 passing completion rate in the Big Ten, number 2 passing completion rate in the NCAA. He led the NCAA, obviously, and the Big Ten in passing yards, number 1, and touchdowns thrown, which that's impressive in itself. That's a whole country, hundreds of teams, a lot of teams that are out there trying to obviously get that crown as passing leader and stuff, and beat out Tua and Trevor and all the big names out there right now. So something special there. And now let's get into some of his pros and cons. I think he's impeccable at escaping pressure, watching some of his film. And I think he's more mobile than he's letting on. Obviously, the sacks and stuff hurt him a little bit. But he kind of reminds me, and I'm going to compare him just to some little things about some higher, up quarterbacks. He kind of reminds me of Aaron Rodgers, and the fact that he has a deep ball, and he can run, and he's just extremely mobile in the pocket. And I feel like when he gets to the NFL later, you'll see him running outside the pocket a little more. But in the pocket, he just escapes pressure very well. It's impressive. Just the way that he's aware of his pocket and where to go, and following the blockers and everything he can to get the pass out. Another thing about him is he reads zone defenses very well. And he has the football IQ of some of the best quarterbacks that I've ever seen. He is so good at just dissecting defenses, getting through them. If he has time to think, I put my money on him out of anyone else in the college, at least, to make that pass, to find the hole. He understands, and it's impressive. He calls his own audibles, which at the college level, some quarterbacks do it, but it just shows you how smart he is. Just how great for a young kid to being able to go up to the line, call his own audibles, call motions by himself. And that doesn't seem like a lot But again, it attests to his mentality and who he is as a person and how smart Dwayne is. He also plays some of his best games, in my opinion, against his biggest opponents, specifically Michigan. He destroyed Michigan. Against Michigan, he went 20 of 31 for 396 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 0 sacks. His longest throw was for 78 yards. And then let's talk about another big opponent, Washington, which, yeah, their defense didn't look the best as it has before, but it was still really good this year. They won that game 28-23. He went 25 of 37, 250 yards for 3 touchdowns with a longer 34. Not obviously as impressive as the Michigan game where he just destroyed them, especially Michigan again, who was the number 4 ranked team in the country. And I mean that's impressive in itself. He also ran for 34 yards, had one of his best rushing games, I guess you could say. He had a couple of big ones from Penn State, TCU, Northwestern obviously was a big game. 5 touchdowns, 1 pick, 34 of 41, 499 yards. It's just impressive. And I also read an interview where he said he was excited to play Michigan State's defense. One of the best defenses in the NCAA, coached by Jim Harbaugh. And he was excited. He was licking his chops. This kid was excited to play against this defense. And he destroyed them. He tore them up. He threw the most touchdowns he threw all year against them. One of the best defenses. One of the best teams. And then let's talk about the Purdue loss. Okay? Embarrassing. But wasn't his fault necessarily, in my opinion. I think if he wasn't in that game, if it was a different quarterback, I think they would have got blown out even more. His stats in that game weren't even that bad. 49 of 73, you can tell they were going to him because he was the one that they knew they needed to get the ball to if they wanted to win the game, especially late. He threw 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. He had a 67% completion rating, and he got sacked once. I blame his team around him for that loss. I think if he had maybe some better receivers and a better defense. Obviously, Ohio State's defense was one of the better ones this year, but not against Purdue. Let's talk about his cons, though. Been giving him rave reviews all day. Let's talk about some of his cons. Okay. He's inexperienced, and this is something that you're going to hear a lot, obviously, as the draft goes through and all that stuff. He is definitely inexperienced with only 1 starting year. But you got to think about people like Mitch Trubisky, who, yeah, he only had 1 year starting, and his first NFL year wasn't that great, but he's doing great now. He just was in the Pro Bowl, and you can't beat him for that. Inexperienced quarterbacks can be iffy sometimes, but who knows? I think, though, when I give my draft prediction, it'll kind of erase that con for me, but we'll have to see, obviously. He has a problem. Another con with him is he has a problem with quick pressure. He needs his 3 seconds to think, which is a big issue because in the NFL you have pass rushers galore. The Cardinals are taking Nick Bosa in the first overall pick because he's a pass rusher. Pass rushers are in need in this league, and pass rushers are good, and they are getting better. You have players like Khalil Mack and Aaron Donald who are just going to get through the line, especially if he goes to the Giants. And that line's terrible. They'll get destroyed. He won't have time to think. He can't process. He's good about getting away from pressure, but his throw on the run ability is not that great. He does a lot of stuff with his arms. And that's another problem with him. He needs a lot of help on his footwork. You'll see him out there kind of just slinging the rock with his hand, and it kind of messes him up on deep throws. And it's not the biggest deal in the world because, I mean, he can do it with his arms. It's just, it is going to bite him. It's going to bite him. That inexperience is going to bite him if he doesn't fix it, because footwork is something that's important in the NFL. You see quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson. You know, Deshaun Watson didn't have good footwork. That was one of his major downfalls when he was getting drafted, is his footwork was bad. And he played with his arms, but Deshaun Watson, again, is in the Pro Bowl this year. So, you know, people doing these kinds of videos like myself don't know what we're talking about. All right, so that's just some pros and cons of him. A draft prediction for Dwayne is going to be, I think he's going to go first round. He's going to be the first quarterback off the board unless Daniel Jones or Kyler Murray shows up in the combine. He's going to be the first quarterback off the board. I think some people are actually even going to want to trade up for him, especially the two people I think he could go to are the Giants and the Jaguars. I think that Dwayne Haskins would be best on the Giants because Eli is still there. You put Dwayne Haskins behind Eli Manning. Eli Manning is a wonky quarterback. He's a goofball. He's weird. Whatever. Eli Manning understands the logistics of football. Eli Manning could be a coach. And that's exactly what he's going to do for Dwayne. Dwayne will sit behind him and he will get coached. And it'll be great for him. That's the best possible outcome I can see for Dwayne Haskins. Could he go in and start right away? Maybe. But I don't think if the Giants were smart, they would let Eli coach him up because they need to work on their line more. So hopefully what they do is they draft him. Then he sits behind Eli for a year. They get better O-linemen in the draft and free agency this year and next year. And then Dwayne will possibly have a better new O-line to protect him. And Eli can ride off into the sunset or do whatever he wants. And then you have this new groomed quarterback under Eli Manning, one of the smarter quarterbacks in the league who understands the logistics of football. And you just have Dwayne Haskins, who's a lot a bit raw coming out of college, who could definitely learn from him. If he goes to the Jaguars, I just don't think... I think the Jaguars would be okay for him to go to. I think that he would do pretty good there, but I just have a problem with that because I think that Blake's not going to be able to teach him when Blake's a bad quarterback. I'd pick Eli Manning over Blake Bortles, which they're both, not that great. But, I mean, if he goes to Jaguars, he's starting day one, and he needs that time to sit, in my opinion. But, people said that about Deshaun and Baker, and they're doing great, So, but I think the Giants, it would help him more. You don't want him coming out bad and destroying his confidence. I really think the Giants would be great for him, plus him throwing to Odell on those deep routes. And then one little thing about Dwayne that I just wanted to bring out up here at the end of the video is that overall he gets, these are just little things, he gets good grades. As far as we know, he gets good grades, he's a good kid, he talks to his family, and these are little things, obviously, but it just shows what kind of person it probably is off the field. Just a good guy who just wants to get the job done, understands his work, and just wants to go and play football, and it's a leadership thing. And as far as we know, again, in the locker room, he's a leader. He's a huge leader, and he just wants his team to succeed. And he goes out there every day wanting to win, just like a quarterback should. You don't want a Ryan Leaf out there. You want a Dwayne Haskins. And the final thing, Dwayne Haskins for a grade is getting an A+ for me. I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. I think he's one of the best players in the draft. And despite his inexperience, I think at some point you just have to say he's a good quarterback. Fuck it, right? He's good. Let him be good. Pay him and play him. I think he'll get picked top 10. I mean, someone might trade down, trade up for him. And we'll have to see. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. That was Scouting About. I hope you enjoyed. Leave your comments below about what you thought of Dwayne Haskins. If you like it, like it. If you don't like it, leave. You can subscribe, do whatever you want, favorite, share it, I guess. That'd be great. It would help the channel out. And I hope you have a great day, a great life, a great week, a great minute, second, nanosecond, millisecond. And until next time, bye-bye.
This song goes out to my mom and also T-Pain. Baby girl, what's your name? Let me talk to you.